always try to look at things from a top-down approach, right? Now, what do I mean by this? Well, a lot of people are too fixated upon granular details and they do not tend to look at the overall problem as a whole. Okay. Now, one example that I could give to you is, there are a lot of people out there in the industry, right, who would, let's say, run a lot of lead campaigns, right? And they would try to project an image into the marketplace by showing Ferraris or pictures of their private jets or appearing on many different podcasts. And then they would run a lot of lead ads, right? And then what they would do is they would probably send people to a webinar. And then over there, they would probably sell them one level one. And then they'll do another program where they would sell them like a level 2 course and then the level 3 course, right? And things like that. And then eventually what happens is when these people, spend so much money, they're, showing the wrong kind of idea to people, you know, they would start noticing that their lead cost starts like skyrocketing. And I have talked to such people, that's why like I understand the same. And then they have no way to control the same because throughout this whole process, they were just focusing on trying to make themselves look rich. But they were not focusing on their clients, their experiences, and really, making sure that everybody who they work with, most of the people can be satisfied with their valuable advice and services. And as a result of that, what happened is, of course, those people will realize that they are not doing a good enough job. They would tell their friends, they would tell their families, and then other people would see their podcast and see that, they are trying to be like scammy and, try to display this picture, which is really not true. And then according to most of these people, they would use the bottom-up approach. Okay. What do I mean by this? Well, they would just look at one variable, which is, let's say, their leads, and then try to think, oh my God, the lead cost is becoming so expensive. I should try to fix this problem by launching another ad or maybe trying out another platform and whatnot. But they are just looking at it as from bottom up by just looking at one variable, right? And what they are not realizing is the whole picture by looking at it from top down. So according to the top down approach, right, they must look at their entire machine. For example, inside of a business, you have marketing, then you have sales, then you have client fulfillment, right? And then you have operations, right? And then inside of marketing, you have your branding, you have your performance marketing or direct response, right? And what they're not realizing is when they are doing marketing, they're getting sales and they are getting customers, but these customers are not getting results and they are basically dissatisfied. And then these customers are basically talking to their friends, which is word of mouth, right? Which is then impacting this, right? And then also impacting their brand because in addition to their brand, they're showing, private jets and whatnot, which is leading to like more word of mouth that, okay, this guy looks like really scammy. And then, as a result of this, then again, compounding happens and then this just becomes really, really bad. And as a result of this, their lead cost becomes like, super, super high. And then they are not able to really differentiate or really understand what went wrong. And then they try to keep like changing their ad angles, but they do not understand that it's their entire branding and direct response that's going down because of negative word of mouth compounding over time against them. So they must look at things from a top-down approach, right, in order to understand what really is going on within a business. And again, you could apply this principle to anything in your life, rather than just looking at one variable. For example, just thinking that, I'm eating good food, right? I'm eating within a deficit, but I'm still not losing weight. Well, if you're just going to look at just that one variable rather than like try to understand from a whole that in order to lose weight, you just don't need like proper food. You need sleep as well. You need the proper workout as well. And then understanding that are all variables working in synergy in order to produce me the outcome that I truly want. When you understand it at that level, I think, it's just going to be a lot better for you.